Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Major breaking news.
We have some major news, some major breaking news. We have some major news, major breaking news. We have some major breaking news.
Major breaking news. The media experts were wrong again. I know, color me shocked. What an absolute surprise. History seems to be repeating itself over and over again. But of course, while we're not exactly surprised, it seems some people are. Some people are getting hit in the face with a massive reality check, and in this case, it's Bill Maher. You know, for years, the media class, led by smug midwits just like Bill Maher, they've predicted doom and gloom time and time again with all of Trump's policies. And especially on the issue of tariff, I mean, a lot of people seem to forget that it's not the first tariff rodeo we've been through. All the anti-Trump tariff doomsaying that we saw this year was basically a repeat of what we saw during 2017 during the China tariffs. Although, of course, taken to the next level considering Trump was taking it to the next level with his massive worldwide tariff play. But again, all these smug midwits mock Donald Trump's tariff policy, predicting global collapse, painting his trade policies as reckless economic seppuku, essentially. But just like I called it, we'd be here taking a victory lap a couple months later as all of these little dummies end up eating their damn words. And that's exactly what's happening now, as reality seems to be slapping them in the face, and now all the talking heads and experts are forced to walk it all back. And that's exactly what Bill Maher is doing. He's now admitting it himself that he was wrong. He fell for the official narrative. And I guess finally people are now being forced to realize what we've been saying since day one, that Donald Trump seems to know exactly what he's doing. He's pretty calculated. He's not just a bull in the china shop, as the media experts would have you believe. Anyways, let me show you guys exactly what's going on here. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, so take a look at this.
I remember along with probably most people, were saying at the beginning, oh, you know, by the 4th of July, somebody had to think how the country was, the economy was going to be tanked by then. And I was kind of like, well, that seems right to me, but that didn't happen. Now, it could happen tomorrow. I'm just saying that's reality. So let's work first from the reality of that, not from I just hate Donald Trump. Because that's boring and doesn't get us anywhere and leads you to dishonesty. Because the truth is, I don't know what his strategy is. But look, the stock market is at record highs. I know not everybody lives by the stock market, but I also drive around. I don't see a country in a depression at all. I see people out there just living their lives. And I would have thought, and I got to own it, that these tariffs were going to sink this economy by this time, and they didn't. So, you know, how do we deal with that fact? Because that's the fact.
And there it is, right out of the horse's mouth. Bill Maher, the self-proclaimed truth teller of the left, now admits that the tariffs are working. And you know, I think the real story here isn't just that Maher's opinion has changed. It's more so what it reveals. That these partisan actors do not think. They don't ever actually critically think and analyze the facts in front of them. No, they just parrot the talking points. I've always described Bill Maher as having this normie brain. He's a guy who opens the New York Times, reads a couple of Paul Krugman op-eds, and then recites them on HBO like he's some sort of freaking genius. This guy doesn't actually analyze policy. He just parrots the accepted professional academic talking point, regurgitates it with a little sarcastic smirk, and then acts like he's so much smarter than us. And you know, he revealed his ignorance once again when he admitted in that interaction that he didn't actually understand the Trump play. He didn't understand what the plan was. And just think about how insane that is. Bill Maher, who's supposed to be so knowledgeable and well-read and on top of the news cycle, he didn't even understand the Trump plan. But of course, he spent the last months mocking it. But this entire time, he didn't even understand how Trump was moving the chess pieces. Despite the fact that Trump and Scott Bessent have laid out the plan 100 times. The play is very clear and multifaceted. But Bill Maher didn't even know. Yet he was willing to commit to the mainstream narrative without thought. And that's what it's revealing, right? Lack of thought. Lack of analysis. Just push the Democrat rhetoric. You know, it's obvious that this warped, negative, partisan view has totally rotted these people's brains. You know, that's really the sickness. It brings me back to that infamous Bill Maher clip where he was essentially openly wishing for recession as long as it would stop Donald Trump.
Josh, isn't the Fed cutting rates now just going to make the next economic downturn worse? What's your prediction? I've been hoping for a recession. People hate me for it, but it would get rid of Trump, so you shouldn't hate me for it.
That right there is the rot. That's why these people can't see clearly, because their hatred for Donald Trump is so blinding, it's so obsessive, that they're clearly willing to root for America's failure, for American economic pain, just to spite him, as long as it puts them in a position to potentially pick up the pieces. And by the way, these are the people who are constantly telling us that they care about middle America and the most vulnerable amongst us. Yeah, obviously, they don't give a frickin' damn, and their opinions aren't worth jack squat, because they aren't actually analyzing the facts. They're not talking about supply chains. They're not talking about leverage, trade deficits, comparative economic scale. No, none of that. They just want Trump to lose. And because of that, they miss the bigger picture time and time again. They couldn't see the leverage. They didn't understand what a behemoth the American economy really is. And this is what I said since day one. I knew the tariffs were not going to backfire simply because of one graphic alone. Just take a look at this on screen. Here are the top 50 most valuable companies by market capitalization. What do you notice? They're nearly all American. In fact, almost every foreign country in the top 50 list doesn't even crack $1 trillion. Meanwhile, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 American companies in the $1 trillion valuation. And it might even be higher than that at this point, considering this is old data from May. Actually, I know it's higher than that. Broadcom's at 1.4 trillion. Tesla's definitely over $1 trillion. And so basically all the $1 trillion companies are all American. I mean, just in terms of sheer scale, the rest of the world cannot compete. They're not even in the same ballpark. They have no leverage. And of course, this economic reality is the reason why there's massive trade deficits. And so clearly, all the leverage is on the American side. And Donald Trump understood this. He understood that foreign trading partners would not only be willing to absorb low-level tariffs, but they'd even be willing to spend hundreds of billions of dollars just to maintain access to the American market. But for some reason, this went right over the heads of all of these supposed big-brain Ivy League political analysts like Bill Maher, because they don't think, they don't actually analyze, they just lead with bias. And that's why it's such an embarrassing moment for the leftist media and all these loser talking heads. I mean, we've got Axios, who just wrote this article. In the Trump-dominated global economy, the US gets plenty but gives nothing in return. And this may seem as just a statement of fact, considering everything that's gone on with these latest trade deals. But of course, this headline was not released in a vacuum. This comes after months of Axios telling us the sky is freaking falling because of Trump's tariffs. Then we've got CNN and MSNBC, both now put in positions where they basically have to tell the truth.
And there is this $750 billion investment in U.S. energy that's part of this. Is that part of Europe's plan to wean itself away from Russian energy?
Well, when I served as ambassador, we were trying desperately to get Europe to abandon Nord Stream 2 and buy energy from us. Back then, they were hooked on cheap Russian gas. They didn't think that Russia posed a threat to Europe. So now they don't want to buy from Russia. They want to buy from the U.S. This is something that is tailor-made for this kind of a deal. And I think very soon you're going to see what's, was known as a transatlantic highway of LNG tankers going across the Atlantic to Portugal or to other ports and depositing, large amounts of LNG. And we will become the dominant supplier to Europe, which is in Europe's benefit and it's in our benefit.
The U.S. take any hits with this deal? And what does it say, this outcome say about the president's ability to negotiate?
It's incredibly favorable for the United States. When you look at this, it's been very one-sided. I mean, the U.S. has been making the demands. These other countries have had to kind of contort and comport themselves to them. So they emerge fine here. But what's going to change is over the next weeks and months, as countries and trading partners like the EU look at this episode and think, can we trust this relationship with the U.S.? Can it continue? I think even looking at this deal, framework of which we don't have a ton of details. If that somehow goes south or changes, what's a trading partner like the EU to do? So we see them broaching new relationships with their other trading partners, looking for other opportunities. And I think that's going to be kind of the message here going forward. What's the legacy of these talks, of these threats going to be? And how are other countries going to kind of look at trade going forward? How are they going to change their tack?
Yeah, now it's so obvious that it's all one-sided. You don't say. They seem so shocked and taken aback. But to anyone who was actually paying attention here, anybody with a shred of real-world business sense, this was never complicated. And this is the problem with these elitist, wannabe loser academic leftists. They spend so much time reading these articles and, looking at all this stuff on paper. On paper, tariff equal 15% tax on consumer equal inflation. And they think they're so smart to make that connection. But they don't have real world experience. They don't understand leverage. They don't understand trade imbalances. They don't understand even recent history. How a lot of the times these tariffs are absorbed by the importers and producers and not paid fully by the consumers. And clearly they don't understand the scale of the American economy in respect to everybody else. And that's why time and time again, they end up looking like complete goofballs. Just a bunch of pompous, pretentious pricks. I mean, how else can I say it? Who pretend as if they're the authority on all issues and they know everything. But time and time again, they prove their abundant frickin' ignorance. And Bill Maher, boy, he's the face of that pompous, arrogant ignorance now, isn't he? Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.